When you look back on the decision 50 years ago by the Irish people in 1952, or in 1970 rather, to join what was then the European Economic Community, you have to reflect that it was a brave and it was a very forward-looking decision from a country that was still in its infancy, and a country that had still much to do to maximise the opportunity and the benefits of its independence. From a country that only a few short years before that, only 50 years before that, had come through a war of independence and civil war, and was still very much inward-looking, yet it had this ambition. Of people like Sean Lemass, Jack Lynch, Paddy Hillary, and others to be part of the international family and to maximise its role and its input into that international family. And it took our membership of the EEC and then later the EU to actually really enshrine the principles of what it meant to be a republic within our daily lives. When you look and reflect on the economic progress, which is easy to do and a relatively lazy argument to do, the harder thing to do is to look at the other progress, the progress of our education system, the various funding opportunities in education, and particularly the ability to grow the RTC system, the equality agenda and how that has changed inconceivably since 1973. What had to be done, I mean, you think things like the marriage bar, which sounds so arcane now, and had such an impact on so many people, that was one of the parts of our accession, and then subsequently all of the changes that have come. I think we can look back on that decision 50 years ago and be proud of those who took that decision, be proud of those who voted yes and took that leap into that place of ambition and that place of forward-looking. And I think those looking 50 years on, they cannot be but happy with their decision and happy with what has been achieved. But we cannot either rest on our laurels, and Europe Day 2022 comes at a time of enormous challenge. At the very foundation on which the EU as it is today was established was to build peace and economic development. And those foundations are under threat once again, but never in the way that they are at the moment, in a simultaneous way. That the war on the continent of Europe, with one country being attacked, one country that seeks membership of the Union by an outside aggressor, and leading to the enormous economic challenges that will be faced over the course of the next weeks, months and years as a consequence. That the citizens of Europe and citizens who seek the protection of the European Union in terms of membership are being attacked in their home states. That is a time for reflection. And the rather grand ambitions of the future of Europe Council are important, but they've been slightly sidelined. And they need to take on board this situation and this first. I was critical in this chamber, Minister, and I think you were here, of the response of the EU prior to the invasion of Ukraine in February. However, since then, I have to say I've been impressed. I've been impressed by the focus, by the unity, and by the determination to maintain that unity in spite of the enormous pressures that it faces. And it is vital that we maintain that unity in this phase, which will be far trickier in terms of the impact of sanctions, in terms of the impact of decisions that have to be taken. And I think last week showed that the Union can do that and can take difficult decisions that will impact on its member state, but can take that and maintain its unity. And that unity is crucial, not just for the people of Ukraine, and not just for the people of the Union, but for so many other things as well. Because once this challenge passes, and it will pass, there are other challenges. The situation around climate change keeps getting relegated from the priority of the day to the next priority. So we had COVID, climate change got relegated. We have Ukraine, climate change got relegated. At some stage, we cannot relegate it anymore. And at some stage, the European Union is going to have to treat climate change like it is treating the current situation in Ukraine, like it treated the pandemic. It's going to have to treat it with an all-encompassing, as I say in basketball, all-court response. And take the kind of decisions that are taking now in the context of a war on every single citizen of the Union and beyond in terms of climate change. And younger generations who did not have a vote 50 years ago, who were not born 50 years, expect nothing less and have an ambition, particularly those much younger than even the 50-year-olds, have an ambition on climate change that is far greater than that expressed by the institutions of the European Union at the moment. And that, in part, is a tribute to the Union, to the successful educational record, to the Erasmus programme, to the opportunities that the EU has given generation after generation of Ireland's membership to open up, to open their own imagination, to open their minds and to see the opportunities. The Erasmus programme, and I commend the government for continuing to fund that for people in Northern Ireland, is an enormous opportunity. And this needs to be expanded and continued to ensure that the dream of membership continues to challenge people's minds and continues to challenge people's views. Rule of law issues, Minister, were the priority this time last year, and the manner in which there was an à la carte version to rule of law. And those countries are still à la carte around the rule of law. Granted, they have stepped up to the mark in relation to the challenge of Ukraine, and they have given some very extraordinary responses. But if the community and if the European Union is actually true to its values and true to the values that were endorsed 50 years ago and have been endorsed subsequently on many occasions since through referenda, then the rule of law issues cannot be let slip either. And the standards of membership and the standards and the demands of what it is to be a member cannot be allowed to slip either. And unless we do that, and unless we continue to keep a focus on that, then we'll undermine those very principles. Freisin tá sé iontacht tar éis feachtas an láidir a chathaoirleach gur bhfuil míid an Gaeilge úsáid mar teanga ofaguls Aontas Eorop. Agus léiríonn sé na deisina atá faoi cuasaí Gaeilge, léiríonn na deisina an faoi na daoine go bhfuil labhairis Gaeilge agus ghuiil an caighdeán Gaeilge acu. Agus ba chóirú na bhfad níos mó Gaeilge úsáid airí atá ag dul, báilde na Parliament Eorpa, ba chóirún Gaeilge úsáid gach lá agus iad ag obair sa Europe. And we can be very proud of all of those Irish people who have served the European Union, the European community, the European economic community, our commissioners, our MEPs, our civil servants. And all of them, and the debate can be also very lazy as to what Ireland has got from its membership. Ireland has given a lot as well. We have given some of our best in terms of commissioners. We've given some of our best in terms of MEPs. We've given some of our best in terms of Taoiseach, who chaired very instrumental decisions of the European Council in terms of membership, in terms of German unity, in terms of the new accession states. And now, Minister, and you know more than most, we have to reset our relationship. The first 50 years relationship is going to be, the next 50 years will be very difficult, as our nearest neighbour has gone a different path. And the work of former Taoiseach, former MEPs, former commissioners in terms of building those relationships will make that reset a little bit easier. But that work has to be continued and continued every day. And I appeal to the government to double your efforts, to encourage Irish people to go working in the secretariats, to work in the Parliament, in the Commission, at senior civil service level, so that we are not losing that opportunities behind the scenes where the levers really get pulled, because we don't have the influence we once had, and we need to work harder and work more smarter in how we do that, Minister. 100 years ago, this country was on the precipice of a civil war. It was at one of its most inward-looking spots. But through that situation, those that fought on both sides had huge ambitions for statehood and huge ambitions for where this country stood. 50 years ago, we set on the path of maximising that statehood within the continent of Europe. And I think today we can reflect with pride and with quite a lot of happiness on our membership. But we can't be complacent either. When we were complacent, our people gave a message to the political classes in terms of referenda that you cannot treat our membership of Europe as a constant, you cannot treat it as a complacent thing. We have to defend it and fight for it every single day. We have to defend our interests every single day as a country. And there were times when maybe we were not good at defending our national interests. We have to make sure we do that, but we can do that whilst fighting for European interests as well. And I think we should be incredibly proud of the Taoiseach and of the government over the course of the last number of months in relation to Ukraine and how we responded as a fellow small state defending the interests of another small state, Calleary, that should be given fast-track membership to the European Union. And that, ultimately, will be the statement that we would endorse our 50 years of membership, that a fledgling state would get the opportunities that we got 50 years ago, or 49 years ago, on this day, the opportunities that were given in a referendum. Gurmeen Magan.